My brother wrecked my new coupe and brushed it off as no big deal. Mom defended him, but I just smiled, because the coupe wasn't mine anymore. The prime rib sits untouched on my plate as my mother circles the dining table, topping off water glasses with practiced precision. Sunday dinner at the Evans household unfolds with its usual choreography. Crystal goblets catching light from the chandelier. The heirloom china gleaming against the dark oak table that's witnessed 3 decades of family tensions disguised as togetherness. Dad checks his watch. Brandon should be here by now. You know your brother, Mom says, her eyes flicking toward me. Always running on his own schedule. I stayed silent, not trusting my voice. Every Sunday since my promotion, I've shown up for these dinners, hoping something might change. That my parents might finally see me, really see me, without comparing me to their perfect younger son. The front door swings open, followed by the familiar clunk of dress shoes on hardwood. Brandon sweeps in, windblown and laughing, his entire body projecting the carefree confidence that comes from never facing consequences. Sorry I'm late. He tosses his jacket onto the sideboard, narrowly missing Mom's prized ceramic vase. My stomach tightens when I notice what dangles from his finger. A key ring with a distinctive black leather tag. My key ring. Dad beams. Did the interview go well? Seems to. Brandon drops into his chair. The guy said I had great qualifications. Of course you did, Mom says, serving him a generous portion. We're just glad you had reliable transportation today. The room tilts slightly. I set down my fork with deliberate care. The sterling silver making a soft clink against bone china. Did you take my car without asking me? My voice emerges low and measured, each word carefully placed. Brandon rolls his eyes, twirling the keys before tossing them beside his water glass. Oh, relax. It's just sitting in your driveway most days anyway. That's not an answer. Dad's face hardens. Family helps family, Jordan. Brandon needed to make a good impression today. My mind flashes to this morning, reaching for my spare keys on the hook by the door, finding the peg empty. I'd assumed I'd misplaced them, never imagining. You could have asked, I say. Mom's smile tightens. Honestly, sweetheart, it's not as if you were using it. The familiar dismissal stings. But this time, beneath the sting lies something darker. A slow-burning fury I rarely allow myself to feel. 3 months ago, I stood in a boardroom wearing my best navy suit, presenting the culmination of 18 months of work. 8 men in similar suits stared back, skepticism gradually giving way to grudging respect as I walked them through the proposal. When the final signature hit the contract, $2.8 million. I knew exactly what I would do with my commission. The dealership had called it midnight blue, though under certain light it seemed almost black. Leather seats that smelled like possibility. The salesman was surprised when I paid the down payment without hesitation, without a wife or father beside me to approve the purchase. First thing I've ever owned that wasn't used or discounted, I told my friend Chloe over celebratory drinks, showing her pictures of my new Audi. I earned every inch of it. Now Brandon studies his nails, oblivious to what is taken. Not just a car, the physical proof that I finally escaped the shadow of family expectations. I've been meaning to ask, Brandon says, cutting into his meat. Could I borrow it again next weekend? There's this networking mixer in Aspen and... No. The word emerges before I can soften it. Mom's fork pauses midway to her mouth. Jordan. Don't be selfish. There it is. The familiar pattern. Brandon takes. I sacrifice. My parents referee, always ruling in his favor. You have your own car, I say. That old thing? Come on. I'm trying to make connections here. Dad sets down his napkin. Your brother is trying to get his career started. The least you could do is help. My career started with student loans and 2 jobs. Without family connections or borrowed luxury. But saying so would only label me bitter. Jealous of my brother's effortless charm. The story never changes, only the details. By the way, Brandon adds, spearing a green bean. Some moron in a parking lot scratched the passenger door. Nothing major. My phone buzzes in my pocket. Then again. And again. I slip it out, breaking Mom's no phones at dinner rule and feel my blood freeze. 6 notifications from colleagues. All variations of the same message. Beautiful car. When did your parents buy it for you? I open Instagram. And there it is. Brandon, posed beside my midnight blue Audi, his smile wide and proud. The caption reads. Thanks Mom and Dad for the amazing gift. #blessed #new car #family support. 23 likes. Dozens of comments from mutual friends. Posted 2 hours ago. I set my phone on the table, screen up so they can all see it. The room goes still. We need to talk about boundaries, I say, my voice steady despite the rage building behind my ribs. The time for sacrifice has ended. Dad waves his hand dismissively at my phone screen. It's just a social media post, Jordan. Don't be so sensitive. He just wants to feel successful. Like his big brother. Mom chimes in, dabbing her napkin at the corner of her mouth. Is that so terrible? I look at Brandon, waiting. His shoulders rise and fall in a practiced shrug. I'll delete it if it's that big a deal, he says, not meeting my eyes. But everyone already saw it, so what's the point? The casualness in his voice makes my skin burn. I take a slow breath, keeping my tone even. Show me the scratch. What? On my car. The scratch you mentioned. I want to see it. 2 minutes later, we stand in the driveway. The scratch isn't just a scratch. It's a foot-long scrape with traces of white paint embedded in the midnight blue surface. Not from a parking lot. From a light pole. You sideswiped a light pole. The words taste like metal in my mouth. Were you texting while driving? Brandon's eyes dart toward the house where our parents wait. Does it matter? Insurance will cover it. My insurance. My premiums. Back inside, I scroll through my phone, heart pounding harder with each swipe. Not just one post. 5. Spanning 2 weeks. Brandon at a restaurant valet stand, at a golf club, showing off his new car to friends. My car. I place my phone face up on the table and stand. The dining room falls silent as I rise to my full height. This car, I say, my voice quieter than I expect, represents the first major purchase I made for myself. With money I earned from a job I've worked 80-hour weeks to excel at. Mom's eyes fill with tears. Dad's jaw clenches. I paid for my college. I paid for my apartment. I paid for every single thing I own. Each sentence lands like a footstep, advancing across unstable ground. After the Anderson contract closed, I chose that car because for once I wanted something that wasn't secondhand. Something that represented what I'd accomplished. Without anyone's help. Brandon examines his nails, but I catch the flicker of resentment in his eyes. And you took it without asking. Then lied about who bought it. Mom's tears spill over, transforming quickly to indignation. After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us. With accusations and ingratitude. My phone buzzes again. Sarah from accounting, beautiful car in the post. When did your parents buy it? Must be nice having such generous support. Sarah, who witnessed me stay late every night for 18 months. I reach for my purse with deliberate calm, slinging it over my shoulder. Don't you walk away from this table, young man. Dad's voice carries the authority that once made me freeze. We're not finished discussing this. Actually, I say. We are. I move toward the door. What are you gonna do? Brandon challenges, leaning back in his chair with familiar confidence. The confidence of someone who's never faced consequences. Call the cops on your own brother. I pause at the threshold, turning to face them one last time. 3 faces, 3 versions of the same expectation that I'll bend. As I always have. No, I say, fingers tight around my keys. I'm going to do something much more effective. The door closes behind me with a soft click. Monday morning, the office buzzes with start-of-week energy I normally find invigorating. Today, each good morning feels like an intrusion. Jordan. Sarah waves from the break room. That car your parents got for Brandon is gorgeous. My wife's been looking at the same model. My smile freezes in place. Thanks. 2 steps later, David from finance, saw your brother's post. Nice ride. Your folks must be proud of his new job. He hasn't started yet, I say, the words clipped. By the time I reach my office, I've fielded 4 more comments. Each one stokes the ember of rage burning in my chest. At precisely 10 a.m., I sit across from Helen Reeves, CFO of Summit Consulting Group. I slide a folder across her desk. Before we discuss the quarterly numbers, I'd like to propose a solution to our client transportation costs. Her eyebrows rise slightly, but she opens the folder. I've laid out the numbers with precise clarity. You're suggesting we add a dedicated executive vehicle, she says, flipping through the pages. For client meetings and corporate events, I keep my voice steady, professional. We currently spend an average of $1,400 monthly on reimbursements for the sales team alone. A dedicated vehicle would reduce that by 30% while providing consistent branding opportunities. She studies the final page, a photograph of my midnight blue Audi with a mock-up of the company logo subtly positioned on the door. And you happen to know of an available vehicle that meets our specifications? I do. I meet her gaze directly. Mine. Reeves leans back, a smile tugging at her mouth. I wondered when you'd make this kind of move, Evans. She taps the folder. This actually saves us money. Smart. Very smart. 2 hours later, I walk out of the legal department with preliminary paperwork in hand. By Wednesday, the company mechanic has removed the scratch. The expense absorbed as routine maintenance. My assistant has rescheduled client meetings to accommodate the transition. The legal department has drafted the final agreement. I stand in the underground parking garage beside Walter, the company attorney. Insurance transfer is effective immediately, he checks items off his list. Corporate plates will arrive next week. The reserved parking space is already marked. Sure enough, a sign now reads reserved for client relations in the prime spot near the elevator. The Audi sits beneath it, freshly washed. Small magnetic company logos now adorning both front doors. You're sure about this? Walter asks, handing me the final paper to sign. Once it's company property, you can't just take it back. I'm sure. I sign my name with a decisive flourish. That evening, Chloe arrives at my apartment balancing a bottle of wine and takeout containers. To corporate assets, she says, raising her glass after I've explained everything. Most creative boundary setting I've ever witnessed. I clink my glass against hers. To problems solved. What will you tell them? She asks, dishing pad thai onto our plates. I twirl noodles around my fork. The truth. That I no longer own the car. And when they realize what you've done, the anger that's fueled me for days settles into something cooler, more permanent. Then they'll learn what happens when they mistake my generosity for weakness. From my window, I can just make out the roof of my old sedan in the lot below. No longer mine, yet more securely mine than ever before. Sometimes protection requires sacrifice. But for once, I'm not the one paying the price. On Thursday, my phone rings during lunch. Mom's name flashes on the screen. Jordan, honey, Brandon needs the car again this weekend. There's a company mixer in Vale Ann. That won't be possible anymore. What do you mean? I'll explain Sunday. I hang up before she can respond. Sunday arrives. I pull into my parents' driveway in my old Toyota Corolla. The vehicle feels comfortably familiar. When I push open the front door, 3 heads swivel in unison. Brandon stands in the entryway, his expression shifting from boredom to confusion. Where's the blue car? He asks, his voice pitched high. I drove my old car today, I say, hanging my jacket in the closet. The aroma of pot roast fills the house. I take my usual seat at the table. A strange serenity washing over me. After dinner is served, Dad clears his throat. We've been thinking about your situation, dear. Mom arranges her napkin carefully. Brandon needs reliable transportation for his job search. The economy is brutal right now. Every impression counts. Brandon leans forward, eyes wide. I'll be more careful this time. I swear that scratch was totally not my fault. I take a bite of carrots, chewing slowly. They've rehearsed this. When the plates are cleared and dessert is served, they're still waiting for my answer. The silence stretches between us. For the first time all evening, I smile genuinely. That won't be possible. Mom sets down the water pitcher. What do you mean? I dab my mouth with my napkin. I don't own that car anymore. The words fall into absolute silence. You sold your new car already? Mom's hand flies to her mouth. Another impulsive decision. Dad's voice rises with an edge of triumph. I knew it. I shake my head once, calmly. I transferred it to my company. It's a corporate asset now. The silence that follows feels thick enough to touch. You can't just do that. Brandon's voice cracks, his composure shattering. Dad leans forward. Explain yourself. I reach into my bag and withdraw a folder, placing it on the table. It means the car belongs to Summit Consulting now. I use it exclusively for client meetings and business purposes. I open the folder. It's already done. Brandon snatches up the papers, scanning them with growing disbelief. This isn't fair. You did this on purpose. Yes, I admit, feeling strangely light. I did. Can they just take your car? Mom asks, confused. They didn't take it. I proposed the arrangement. I gently retrieve the papers. The company pays for the insurance, maintenance, everything. In return, I use it only for work. Dad's face tightens. You've always been difficult, but this is beyond. Beyond what? I ask softly. Beyond protecting something I worked hard for? The silence that follows feels different. I close the folder with a soft, final sound. Even if I wanted to let you drive it now, I look directly at Brandon. I legally cannot. It's not mine to lend. Dad's voice drops to a dangerous whisper. If this is how you treat family, perhaps you should reconsider your place in this family's future. The threat hangs in the air. You're threatening to cut me out of the will? I ask, more curious than concerned. Your behavior suggests an unhealthy attachment to material things, Mom interjects, her therapist voice emerging. Perhaps you should talk to someone. Brandon's eyes fill with tears. You've betrayed all of us. After everything we've done for you. The accusation that once would have devastated me now glances off. I've already received my inheritance, I say gently. You taught me to work hard, to persist, to stand on my own 2 feet. That lesson is worth more than anything in your estate. Dad flinches. For the first time, I see uncertainty in his eyes. I gather my things. Movements deliberate and unhurried. I love you all, I say, meaning it despite everything. But love has boundaries. Love respects. Love doesn't take without asking. So that's it. You're just walking away? Brandon demands. I'm driving away in my old Corolla toward the life I've built. You're welcome in that life, but only if you can respect its boundaries. Mom starts to speak, but Dad quiets her with a hand on her arm. Something in his expression has shifted. Love doesn't take. It respects, I say one more time. Then I walk out the front door, the weight of expectation falling away with each step. The engine of my practical, paid-off Toyota turns over with a familiar rumble. As I pull away from the curb, I catch a glimpse of them watching from the window. 3 figures frozen, suddenly uncertain of the script. For the first time in 32 years, I'm writing my own. 6 months later, morning sun catches the edge of my new senior director nameplate. Through my office window, I spot the Audi in the company lot, now emblazoned with our logo. The scratch has long since vanished, erased like old habits. Success isn't what you own. It's owning your boundaries. Some prices are too high, even for family. But some lessons are worth every penny.